let's get it on. We're only a couple minutes over, which is great.
Yeah.
So welcome everybody. Thank you for being here. It's been a long day and in a good way. A lot of content. Those of you that are participating throughout the day, thank you for supporting our programming. I hope you're enjoying what you're seeing. It was very important to me personally to put this panel together. So right off the bat, I want to sincerely thank all the poets you're about to see, poets, writers, prose stylists. We really wanted to make an effort at 1455 in this festival. We're talking about the art of storytelling, and I think that pretty much covers all the bases, but it's also a little bit vague. And I think it would have been a real travesty if we didn't really make a concerted effort to talk about current events and reflect kind of our current socio-political reality from an artistic perspective, but also people that have important things to say. And so suffice it to say, for me, as the organizer, it's very meaningful that we're able to bring this group of wonderful writers together. And I've been looking forward to it for weeks now. So I think what we're going to do, because there's a bunch of us, is I'm gonna introduce our first speaker, and then we will kind of pass the mic, and I will introduce each writer before they speak, and we're going to go alphabetically, but I've got my list here. Just as by way of quick introduction, so this is Inspiration Information, a Black Lives Matter reading. I don't know what more I need to say. I don't want to say a lot. I want to step out of the way and let the poets and the prose stylists and the spoken word artists do their thing. But like I said, I think these voices are important, need to be heard. And I'm very content to let them speak for themselves. So if I can, I would love to kick things off with the incredibly talented Ayana Reed, who participated in our festival last year. So we're welcoming her back. She's a singer and actor from Washington, D.C., who's becoming known for her unique ability to capture an audience's emotions, as mentioned by the press. She's on a mission to bring meaningful stories to life on stage and in front of the camera. She showcases her versatility through performances such as an opera debut in Italy as Pamina in Mozart's Der Zauberflute, to starring in the Helen Hayes-nominated blues musical Blackberry Days, which garnered Reed rave reviews from the Washington Post. Her performance skills were developed at the renowned Duke Ellington School of Arts High School and the Friends of Carter Barron's Performing Arts Foundation. Landing her on stages as prestigious as the Kennedy Center, Carnegie Hall, and Lincoln Theater. She has a Bachelor of Music degree in vocal performance and a minor in African and American Studies from George Mason University. Ayana, if you're there, please kick us off in style.
Yes, good evening, everyone. I'm so honored to be a part of this panel, and I thought I could think of no better way than to kick it off than with what I grew up calling it the Black National Anthem, which is Lift Every Voice and Sing. Lift every voice and sing till earth and heaven ring with the harmonies of liberty. Let our rejoicing rise high as the listening skies. Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Sing a song full of the faith that the dark past has taught us. Sing a song full of the hope that the present has brought us. Facing the rising sun of a new day begun. Let us march on till victory is won.
Thank you so much. I think everyone that wasn't ready for that can appreciate why I asked but gently insisted that my friend be part of this. Thank you for starting this off. So great to have you here. Let's move along. Another young man who was with us last year. This is his second appearance at the 1455 Summer Literary Festival. I'm so happy that I reached out to TJ and he was willing to be here. I can't wait to hear him read. I'd like to introduce TJ Anderson III. TJ was born in Guthrie, Oklahoma. He's a poet and musician and the author of Devante Travels, The Sorry Route, Cairo Workbook, River to Cross, Notes to Make the Sound Come Right, Four Innovators of Jazz Poetry, Blood Octave, and the chapbook At Last Roundup. He's had fellowships with the Virginia Center of Creative Arts and the McDowell Colony. He lives in Roanoke, Virginia, and teaches at Hollins University. TJ, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Sean, and thank you for doing this. This is wonderful, wonderful. Thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. Yes, and victory will be won, believe me.
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to read two poems this evening. The first one is called And There It Is. So after, on the word there, I have a slash marked after the letter T. So it's a combination of there it is and here it is simultaneously. Somebody once told me where there's a will, there's a way. And I got to thinking, what kind of weight was he talking about? My God, that was during the Trump years when people's shackles, hackles were up. Let me be clear, let me be Claire, let me be Clorox, let me be celestial, because that's the only currency I got. There is something, some think, snub king or sub 10 in rhythm. There is something sets the soul ablazing. There is, I say, something in the rhythm that morphs this phantom body into dancing a two-step all its own. A buck and wing with arms waving aloft. They could be appendages, they could be machetes. As if, I should say it, Black people can fly. There is snake hip Tucker's serpentine swirl cross supper club dance floors in the 1920s. That's got to remind you of the middle, the middle, the middle, the middle, the middle, the middle, the muddle, the middle, the middle, the middle, the middle, the middle, the muddle, the middle, the middle passage. Passed on from one mouth to another, from those palms that stun skins into singing true. See, there is something, but not articulated, complex, completed, and all that reels into hauling goods. And that reels into being goods, and that reels into Hull's Caribbean bound, and that reels into Hush, Little Baby, Don't You Sing, The Stars Fell on Alabama. Was it last night, night before, 24 robbers at my, no, not Aladdin's 40 thieves, dank cave laden with fancy jewels, the genie at the entrance entranced, emeralded, really? Is that the genie I dream of, she of the light brown hair? The trance, the trance, the trance, the trance that the drum calls up is the font, is the font, is the front, is the funk, this found tribal memory saying, come children, don't you get worried. Let's laugh, let's weep, let's remember together. Thank you. The next poem is called Oble Tambu. Oble Tambu is a rhythm used in Haitian Voudon. It's a faster rhythm and it's used to welcome and bring in the Loa, the spirits. A pileated woodpecker pecks out 16th notes on a dead poplar. Reminds me, was that one also first invented flute? Rhythm as resistance syncopated. Drum way out through primordial octave. This here be wood song. This here be chopper's chant. Soon the ancient ones will arrive, show us their paces, serenade the earth with their hooved language. I've been raised to measure the balm of seance, to linger in its magic, lift flute to mouth, let wood cradle lips to erupt a fragile blow, to evoke a plaintive lament under a tent of dark, impenetrable clouds. In the historical horizon, I conjure shacks and shanties writhing up from salt splintered decks. My memory is a talisman that slips between corpses. No ocean in the wood, but a sea of timber and topsoil, and it's slipping away. To where, unable to wrestle the gulf of epics, my anguished lament loses its potency. My saga, simply a matter of believing beyond retrieving. See, I'm trying to initiate a poem here, but I need space. I need room to exercise my pioneer spit and spirit, find a place where witnessed absence spews from my mouth like an avalanche of lungs in a coal mine, like a peck of Taoist sun-tied to steel rail, like a stampede of Black bodies ignited by fire and commemorative postcards. A ridge cast red shadows. They appear like jagged rib cages, like raw cathedral spires, and trees that turn magically into books where my mother's name vanishes. My feet tell me that this was once the place where rivers swept through, but where did they go? Too many bodies of water to recall. They are chains, each eddy turbulent, unforgiving. Now, reporters tell us it's a virus seeding destruction in its wake, and I don't know which one they're referring to, because see, I never cottoned too much to be called an American when cross waters, smoke fires, bodies pillaged with disease. And while these woods may betray a calm, there is an anger deep inside me, ancient as anything I care to know, and I'm grasping for breath, and I'm grasping for words. And I'm grasping for sense, and I'm grasping for that place of solace where just that one bird routinely taps for grubs on a dead limb, scalloped and marked. It could be an oar to dip in the ocean. It could be a whale beneath the decks. It could be an abacus to record my vanishing. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. I knew you wouldn't disappoint, TJ. Let's keep it rolling. I'm very happy to introduce Tara Campbell. Tara is a writer, teacher, Campbell Fellow, and fiction editor at Barrel House. Prior publication credits include the Smoke Along Quarterly, Masters Review, Monkey Bicycle, Jellyfish Review, Booth, and Strange Horizons. She's the author of a novel, Treevolution, a hybrid fiction poetry collection, Circe's Bicycle, and a short story collection, Midnight at the Orangaporium, which received a starred review in Publishers Weekly. She received her MFA from American University in 2019. Tara, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. This has been an amazing day, all from behind my desk. So that's been strange, but it's been wonderful. Thank you so much for having me. And it's so wonderful to see familiar faces on the screen. This is fabulous. I'm just going to read two poems today, and they're from my upcoming collection, Political AF, a Rage collection, with a cover that looks like a protest poster in itself. So that's kind of the vibe of this collection. And I'll start with a poem that kind of dovetails with the previous session. One of the parting comments there was that Black people are not a monolith. And that's one of the things that they hope that sessions like this can inform people about. And so this poem is kind of related to that area and the need for a new language around race, really. It's called The Trouble with Pronouns. But that's exactly why my lips and tongue freeze. Another unarmed Black man dead. And I want to be clear, but my pronouns are a mess because I'm mixed race and mixed up, trying to explain in Black and white how we and they might bridge the gap. Why do my lips sometimes lack the confidence? These lips speaking out of a light-skinned, blue-eyed face, lips of a girl who grew up in a mainstream, middle-class, two-parent home in Alaska, attended a multi-ethnic school, and hell, I'll spill it now, watched Gilligan's Island and Get Smart, wore hee-haw overalls, and played with Donnie and Marie dolls. So how am I even Black enough? Because I have no history with collards or church. I don't feel like a caged bird singing. I actually have the bluest eye. And my dreams are not deferred, they are affirmatively actionable. So have I actually earned the right to say we? But how could my tongue insist upon meeting my teeth? This code switching tongue, rolling out the right sounds by choice, by setting, by interlocutor. Born in Alaska because that's the only place a Black man could get a promotion in the 60s. Trying to untangle scholarships from reverse racism in my classmates' comments. I did earn them, didn't I? That one drop coursing through my veins, a too uncomfortable thought for certain boyfriends' mothers. Spending too many years with rollers in my hair and relaxer in my regimen, smiling at the swaggy Black coolness my nephew informs me we share. And how can I not fear for my brother wearing darker skin than mine in a world where lawmen with guns don't hesitate to say they? My lips and tongue freeze, and the debate rolls on, all mixed up in black and white. Thank you. My second work, even though it was written in 2016, it has become shockingly topical, and you will quickly see why. It's called After the Pedestal. I get back in my car and sit, crushed by the granite boot of a Confederate soldier. I was almost home when I hit another world. I had to stop to make sure it was real. Welcome to Alexandria. I start the engine, glimpse rear view mirror, imagine my light skin owned, a flash of blue eye heading to my master's kitchen or his bed. They fought for our way of life. Would my grandmother's German immigrant bones have ached for the man she would never have known but for the slaver's greed? It's heritage, not hate. And yet I am here, despite and because of my helixes twist in a dance of violence and love. Oh, you can't outlaw history. This is anything but. You should try it sometime. Come live out history in the middle of town. Your head will spin as you toe the edge of the human race, your keepers lionized. Try it, I insist. Breathe through the impotent rage you could only know at the foot of the man who would own you, pedestaled in glory for all to see. Because you're right, history really does come alive when we honor it like this. I pull into traffic. I know the way home, and it's far beyond this place. Thank you. For those of you who are keeping score, this is the statue that was just removed in Alexandria, but I am keeping an eye on it because that pedestal is still there. So stay tuned. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Tara. And also apologies, I butchered, and it's so funny because I was going to give you a shout out. You've got the best titles. Midnight at the Organ Emporium. I think I said
exactly. That's where you buy your internal organs in the future. So
it's so great, and it's an appropriate segue to remind everyone watching and people that watch later when this is on our website. We have links to authors' books in their speaker bios. If you go to the event page on the very front page of the festival website, there's a link. We're delighted to be partnered with the Potter's House in DC, and they're working with bookshop.org to fulfill orders. So please support these writers and all the writers you're seeing this weekend. How could you not after you hear this stuff? Thank you.
Yeah.
So moving along, is Sean Cosby in the house? I think I saw him let in earlier.
Yes, hello, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Thank you for being here, Sean.
Thanks for having me.
Our pleasure. Sean's a writer from Southeastern Virginia, now residing in Gloucester, Virginia. His short fiction has appeared in numerous anthologies and magazines. His short story, The Grass Beneath My Feet, won the Anthony Award for Best Short Story in 2019. He's also the author of My Darkest Prayer and Brotherhood of the Blade. His writing is influenced by his experience as a bouncer, construction worker, retail manager, and for 6 hours, a mascot for a major fast food chain inside the world's hottest costume. When he isn't crafting tales of murder and mayhem, he assists the dedicated staff at J.K. Redmond Funeral Home as a mortician's assistant. He's an avid hiker and is also known as one hell of a chess player. Mr. Cosby, thank you for being here. It's an honor.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for letting me be a part of this incredible event. It's so great to see so much Black excellence on the screen and in one place. It's heartening in these very troubled times, which seem very familiar to anyone with a Black or brown face. I'm going to be reading from my current novel, Blacktop Wasteland. It tells the story of an African-American man named Beauregard Bug Montage, who is a former getaway driver who is trying to leave the criminal life behind, but unfortunately, crushing debt and poverty and his own hubris drags him back into it. And I'm going to read a section where he's talking to his oldest son about their financial difficulties. And it's somewhat of a version of a talk that I think a lot of people that are fighting class and race and poverty have had. And so I'll just read very quickly from that. Are we going to be okay? Javon asked. Beauregard sat back against the bench seat of the truck. Why are you asking me that? I've heard you and Mama talking, Javon said. He had pulled his earbuds down around his neck. We're going to be fine. We might have hit a rough patch, but you ain't got to worry about that. All you need to do is get ready for the 8th grade, Beauregard said. Mama was on the phone the other night saying that she might have to get another job because that Precision place opened up, Javon said. Listen, don't you worry about Precision or your mom getting another job. All you got to worry about is hitting them books and getting through high school, Beauregard said. I wish I could just come to work with you. I could get a job helping Uncle Booney or something. I hate school. It's boring. The only thing I like is art class, and I can do that on my own, Javon said. Beauregard drummed his fingers on the steering wheel. He knew Javon was struggling in math. Beauregard had tried to help him. He tried his best to unravel Pythagorean's theorem or scientific notation for Javon, but he knew he was a piss-poor teacher. He couldn't seem to explain angles and variables to Javon in a way that made sense to his son. Beauregard just seemed to get it, and it was hard to articulate how he got it to someone else. He figured Javon felt the same way about drawing. His son was smart and talented, just in a different way. His daddy used to say you didn't call a fish dumb because it couldn't climb a tree. Beauregard held his hand up in front of his son's face. You see the grease on my hands? I've washed them 5 times a day and it still won't come all the way off. Now don't get me wrong, there's no shame in working with your hands for a living. But for me, it was the only choice I had. It don't have to be that way for you. You want to go to auto diesel school and get a job working on race cars? That's fine. You want to go to VCU and take art classes and be a graphic designer? Hey, that's fine too. You want to be a lawyer or a doctor or a writer? Ain't nothing wrong with that either. Education gives you those choices, Beauregard said. He sat back against the driver's seat again. Listen, when you're a black man in America, you live with the weight of people's low expectations on your back every day, and they can crush you right down to the goddamn ground. Think about it like this. It's a race, and everybody else has a head start, and you're dragging those low expectations behind you. Choices give you freedom from those expectations, allows you to cut them loose, because that's what freedom is, being able to let things go. And nothing is more important than freedom. Nothing. You hear me, boy? Beauregard said. Javon nodded his head. All right, man. All I want you to do is worry about keeping your head in them books. I'll take care of everything. I'll take care of everything else. Now help me get your brother in the house. We don't watch him. He'll be out here all night fighting with that damn plant, Beauregard said. Beauregard got the boys inside and made them their favorite daddy dinner. cheeseburger casserole with a pitcher of lemon lime Kool-Aid. Later, after he had put them in bed, he waited for Kia to get home. A little after 11, she came stumbling into the house. What did you feed the boys? Their favorite, he said. She collapsed next to him on the couch. In less than 5 minutes, she was asleep. Beauregard got up and carried her to bed. Her body wrapped around him like a snake, and he laid her down in the soft, downy comforter and went back to the living room to cut off the lights. He pulled his key ring out of his pocket. As he was hanging it on the hook, the key to the duster dropped to the floor. The 8-ball at the end of the chain clattered across the hardwood surface. He bent over and picked it up. The letters ATM were scratched into the surface of the plastic resin on the miniature 8-ball. Tomorrow he would start working on the Buick. He'd have to go up to Cutter County and check the route a few more times. And he needed to go over the plan with Ronnie and Quan again. Booney was right about Ronnie. He was playing some angle that he couldn't see. That was just his way. It was like he was addicted to being duplicitous. Quan was a wannabe gangster playing with a grown man's gun. Beauregard didn't trust either one of them, not even one little bit. His father had trusted his partners and they had tried to kill him in front of his only child. He had no intention of letting that happen to him or his sons. Beauregard knew there was no honor among thieves. Boys in the game only respected you in direct proportion to how much they needed you, divided by how much they feared you. There was no doubt they needed his skill. And they weren't just a little bit afraid of him, then that was their mistake. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sean, and congratulations for the buzz your new release is generating. And I'm happy to tell you face to face that your book arrived this week. So that's the first book I'm reading after Lit Fest. I'm looking forward to it.
Well, thank you. I hope you enjoy it. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm sure I will. Thank you for being here. Okay, next up is D. Nolan Jefferson, who is an academic librarian and writer based in Washington, D.C. His prose appears or is forthcoming in Tahoma Literary Review, Red Savina Review, Orca Literary, Empty Mirror, Hobart Pulp, and elsewhere. He is an AWP Intro Journal Project Award winner, a 2019 Kimblio Fiction Fellow, and enjoys tacos, collecting records, and fellow introverts. Mr. Jefferson, you have the floor.
Hey everyone, thanks for coming out tonight. It's good to be in such great company. I haven't written fiction in a long time, and I was thinking about what I was going to share tonight, and I went back to this story that I actually used when I applied to my MFA program, and it's something that really resonates with me, and it was the piece that won the Intro Journals Award with AWP, so I'm going to share a piece of that. A little background, it takes place in San Diego, which is where I grew up. I grew up, you know, I remember seeing Do the Right Thing when I was 16 years old. I remember Boys in the Hood coming out when I was 18, that summer after I graduated high school. And, you know, so this has got a lot of that kind of Southern California, you know, Killer Cali vibe. So the story is called South of 8. 8 is an interstate that bisects a lot of San Diego. Most of the people of color back when I was growing up lived south of 8. And people who live north were the more affluent and usually more white people. So the story is called South of 8. Raynell cute. That's his problem, and I think mine's too. I know how people act when they see us, how they wonder why we together. I know I'm dark. I know my hair nappy. I know what brothers in these streets like and what they don't like. And more often than not, it ain't girls like me. I ain't never not known Raynell. We lived on the same street since before we was born. My family and his folks went to the same church. It's like we're related, like we're brother and sister. I mean, well, maybe not like that, but you know what I'm saying. And even with all of that, I know we ain't gonna make it. Maybe we just not meant to be together. I hate to even think about it. We go back too far. We know more about each other than probably our mamas. I know he don't like sour cream and I don't like guacamole, and that might not seem like it's that deep, but to me and Raynell, it is. I think Raynell's problem is that because of what happened to his daddy, he always trying to act like he a man and shit. And even though I'm a girl, I mean, even though I'm a woman, I can understand why he be acting like that. When these jokers find out you got something wrong with you, something stupid like you had to go to the clinic because you caught crabs, they always want to talk about you. Raynell's daddy used to smoke rocks, which really ain't that funny to begin with. And because of that, these jokers never let Raynell forget it. He always trying to walk around with his chest poked out, lips poked out too. I tried to tell him, you ain't but 16 years old. All you got to do is go to school, mind your mama, and keep your ass clean. But he ain't trying to hear me. He got too much pride, according to Darlisa. When it come to dudes, I listens to her. She's 17, but she done had a gang of boyfriends. People be thinking she easy, but that ain't true. She would never say it, but I know she just trying to find someone to give a damn about her. She think cause she got all these sorry ass fools running up behind her, breaking her off a little change here and there that means something. I told her it don't mean shit. She finna be 18, but she act younger than me. And on top of that, she got a baby. She act like her life over. I told her I ain't even started yet. She ain't trying to hear me though. Between Raynell and Darlisa, I don't know how I operate as well as I do. Late at night when it's just me and myself, I listen to the radio. I turn the knob and check out, if only for a minute, whatever you can lock in on good, trying something different. I mean, I like my tunes that you can groove to, but I also like getting lost wherever you end up. Came across some song on one of the stations by this girl with pipes, white girl too. She was singing like something bad had happened to her and it was coming out in her voice. You could tell she was really feeling it too. Shit, so was I. She kept saying, there's more to life than this. I would love to tell both Raynell and Darlisa about it, but because it ain't got none of these Negroes rapping over some James Brown loop, they wouldn't hear me no way, so whatever. There's more to life than this. Raynell always talking about the settlement. When I get that settlement, I'ma do this. When I get that settlement, I'ma do that. I told that fool, I said, fool, you don't even know how much you gonna get. He act like that money gonna come in his name. What about your mama? What about your lawyer? Paw was the one ended up in the hospital. He the one need the money. Jesus. Raynell might end up with a little bit, but the way he talking, it's like he finna win a lotto. He say he gonna get a flaked out 6'4" with a trunk full of pumps in a big old house out in Bonita or up on Mount Helix. Child, please. That's my problem with these rusty butt boys. They always got to have something, got to show off, got to have jewelry, got to have the latest sneakers, got to have the newest pagers. How you gonna have a pager and your phone at home ain't even turned on? They always wanna have something shiny to make the next fool jealous. Look at me, look at me. No, Negro, no. Raynell be walking around with this necklace on that's so greasy and grimy, it don't even shine no more. I don't even remember if it did, to tell the truth. I told him he need to keep it polished because my grandmother had some silver that my granddaddy got when he was in the war overseas and it tarnished. That's just how silver is. He tried to act biggity talking about my shit platinum. Platinum, please. He ain't trying to hear me though. Raynell, silver need to be polished. That's why it looked like shit. And then he gonna come at me like, bitch, just shut up. I popped him across his mouth the minute it come out. I said, Raynell Carter, I may be a lot of things, but a bitch ain't one of them. He looked at me like I was crazy. I said, you ain't Eazy-E, and this ain't no Boys in the Hood record, so don't be calling me outside of my name. You listen to too much of that shit anyway with your punk ass. I could feel myself getting heated. And if you really want to walk around with your dirty jewelry on, at least have some sense of mind to work out because your chest look like a plucked chicken. Where your muscles at, yo? Huh, what, you fly now, Hercules? I caught myself. I know I have a bad attitude, but I only snap at him because I love him. And if he loved me like I think he might, then he wouldn't have called me no bitch in the first place. For what felt like the longest time, he just looked at me. He didn't say nothing. He just looked at me all blank like. Then out of nowhere, he just nutted up and exploded. That's your problem, Niecy, he said. Somebody trying to take care of you, take you out, show you the good life, but you too good. You think you better than everybody else. And as much as I wanted to tell him about how trifling he is, I just hushed. I dialed my feelings way down, bundled them inside and put them in a box. This battle had already gone on far too long, and to tell the truth, I was kind of fucked up by what he had said. I don't think I'm better than nobody, but I just stayed quiet. I told him I'd see him later. I said that we both angry right now and we probably say some shit that we don't mean. He didn't say nothing, just looked at me through them angry little slits. I reached for his shoulder and he jumped back like I was fire. shaking his head back and forth with his hands up in the air like he was being held up. Just go, Nisi, go. I turned away and stopped. I don't know what was on my mind. I wanted to say something, but I didn't know what, so I bounced without looking back. These streets is something else. I might not know everything, but something tell me it ain't normal to be laying up listening to gunshots and shit while you're trying to go to sleep at night. What I wonder is, say I moved out to where the rich people stay and it's quiet. Would I be able to sleep then? Would I be able to live in a world that didn't have all this shit I'm so used to? What if Raynell's family gets the settlement and have me move in with them in some mansion out in the suburbs or the mountains or right on the beach? Then what? He act like that money gonna come and poof, all his problems be gone. There's a part of me deep down inside that love Raynell so much, I can't help myself. I'm so stupid, I surrender to it. But there's also a part of my brain that tells me Raynell is like a cute suit at the mall that's a size too small. No matter how bad I wanna rock it to a party or whatever, it just ain't gonna fit or look right. It's always gonna be tight, or the buttons are gonna gap open in the front. Maybe the sleeves right up a little too high on the shoulder or bunch up around the knees. It's just gonna be something. No matter what you do, you just ain't comfortable. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Well, and am I correct in remembering that that's a Bjork song? Outstanding.
Absolutely, off a debut.
Yes. Awesome. Thanks, Mr. Jefferson. Okay, next up, we've got Julia Mallory. She is a poet, a children's book author, and founder of the creative literary arts company Black Mermaids, which is at Black Mermaids brand, at Black Mermaids brand. Her latest book, Survivor's Guilt, takes an unflinching look at grief. She's the mother of 3 children, Julian, deceased, Jaya, and Kareem. She lives in central Pennsylvania. Her work can be found at www.blackmermaids.com. Julia, thanks for being with us tonight.
Thank you, Sean. Thank you for the invitation. Tara, thank you for the connection. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be in the company of all of these great writers, and I've enjoyed everything I've heard so far. So thank you also for blessing me. I'm going to share a few of my poems, and yeah, I guess I don't really need to go too far into an introduction, so I'll just get started. This first poem is called Rituals, and it's inspired by a piece of artwork called Ideas of Ancestry by Philandus Thames for the Arrest and Patterns exhibit at the African American History Museum in Philadelphia. The piece is made of wooden soft bristle hair brushes. Preparing for a visit from his folks, 40 brushstrokes until his waves puckered, kissing the crown of his head, knowing his daddy would ask him to name the last book he read. Malcolm X, A Life of Reinvention, the words out loud to no one in particular. His mom, wearing a slim smile, would always greet him the same, his middle name trapped in her childhood memories of him. Sad eyes glazed over with pain, yet they visited faithfully, except when his mother's health became disloyal. Cancer, the guilt sagging on him. He had read that stress weakened the immune system. Had he been killing the woman that gave him life? Up at night, the grief blocking his sleep. A cell over, he could hear his neighbor weep. The small child in him needing attention, but no consolation here. So instead he offered prayer to constellations, wondering if God knew he was still needed there. My daddy taught me grooming rituals, how to repair and restore, how to bring healing to things. You better clean out my brush, run it under cold water to firm up the bristles, how to stitch up small holes, shine shoes, angle and slap the bristles until the leather glisten. The sound of friction, a thing of beauty like brush sticks kissing the top of a drum. Always drums, bongos warmed up in the oven like biscuits, both burnt when he was distracted. My mother's voice would boom in disappointment. She still has the picture frame made of cool cigarettes he sent from prison, a thing of both ingenuity and desperation. Pictures whenever we visited the mausoleum, of the still existing. Thank you. So I'm gonna read the next collection of poems that I'm gonna share are from my book, Survivor's Guilt. And Survivor's Guilt has a heavy theme around grief. And I don't think we can avoid our grief and be free. And so I want to lift up the memory of my son, Julian. This is the 3rd year since he's no longer been in this earthly dimension. And so I'm gonna share this poem, and it's called All Graves Appear the Same from Above. 1, it's not the holidays, I tell him. Having a dead child potentially makes every day a difficult one. How Christmas cautions against remembering a bright replay of our last family vacation a few days ago, 3 years to the day. My remaining son reminisces on the trip, long distance, his retelling so vivid beyond what I think he can remember reasonably. Like he has been fed these lines about losing his older siblings in a Puerto Rican mall and sand in his mouth, his first flight, and his recall makes me wonder if he is homesick. 2, longing makes you find the words, makes you mine a diamond out of your feelings, makes you present them like the last best thing, every day a testament to having lost the greatest of gifts and still expecting favor after grief snatches my nearest to last breath. 3, Christmas Eve, post-vacation, it is obscenely warm, almost cookout weather. You on the front porch with friends, flat screen and video games. Who says kids don't play outside anymore? 4, what wouldn't I give to feel your wimpy whistle of a snore vibrating against the cradle of my neck while marveling how unremarkable cemeteries appear from the sky? 5, on Christmas Day, a deer makes its way out in front of the car in a place it has no business, and I wonder if it is running away or returning. Thank you. So I'm gonna read this other poem, lifting up another a child, Antoine Rose II, from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, who was killed in 2018 by an East Pittsburgh police officer. And my father's family is from Pittsburgh, but also the connection to this is that they moved the trial from Pittsburgh to where the county where I live at across the state, because they didn't think that the police officer would be able to get a fair trial. And so that's just a little bit of context. I feel like my dual connection to this story. So it's basically 17 stanzas for Antoine Rose, who was 17 at the time of his death. 1, we should not rush to judgment in the same manner his blue-sleeved hand did not rush for his gun. 2, fear makes you irrational, makes you run towards something safe, unless you fear nothing so much that you gun it down. 3, I said your name and wondered how your mama smiled when you got your first job. 4, your words found us and magnified the cowardice we have accepted. 5, some child somewhere has tucked your name between theirs online for safekeeping. 6, forever in their hearts and social media profile, digital memorials. 7, digital racism, do not read the comments. 8, I also found a poem my son had written, a hard truth in my inbox. 9, death must be easy because life is hard. You die alone in the dark, saying goodbye to the light. 10, your return to the light breaks us in half. 11, these wounds will not cauterize. 12, a return to my father's birthplace. I search for traces of you. 13, bright-faced Black boys, a tragedy. 14, boys will be boys, but not our boys, superhuman and without bulletproof capes. 15, it was not hard, the jury foreman said. 16, sameness in the end. 17, across the state, justice will not travel. Thank you. So I'm gonna read just one last poem. And this poem is called For Quiet Black Girls. The world is afraid that your silence is summoning the riot within, preparing to overthrow the tyranny that refuses to see you, invisible until you won't see them, won't bend and lift their comfort, carrying it all up on your back. Where do Black women go when they go quiet? A watercolor in her chest, a garden in her mouth, rest in her mind, building a fortress around her peace, in a world that won't show up in the same way, where reciprocity is privilege. Go ahead, Black girl. Build a world in quiet. Listen to the God within. Go ahead, Black girl. Find your first voice before the world ran interference on your thoughts. Go ahead, Black girl. Turn your cape into a pillow. Go ahead, Black girl. Start a riot if you choose to. They know you could light a match with your tongue. Go ahead, Black girl. Run and we'll follow. Thank you.
Wow, Julia, thank you so much. Beautiful and devastating. I look forward to reading more of your work. I'm so glad you're here. Okay. Next up, I've introduced this man before, and it's always a pleasure and an honor. Ethelbert Miller, without whom this panel would not quite be at the lofty heights it's attaining. It's my honor to introduce my friend. Ethelbert is a writer and literary activist. He's the author of 2 memoirs and several books of poetry, including The Collected Poems of E. Ethelbert Miller, a comprehensive collection that represents over 40 years of his work. For 17 years, Miller served as the editor of Poet Lore, the oldest poetry magazine published in the United States. He's the host of the weekly WPFW morning radio show On the Margin with E. Ethelbert Miller, and host and producer of The Scholars on UDC TV. In recent years, Miller's been inducted into the 2015 Washington, D.C. Hall of Fame and awarded the 2016 AWP George Garrett Award for Outstanding Community Service in Literature, and the 2016 D.C. Mayor's Arts Award for Distinguished Honor. In 2018, he was appointed as an ambassador for the Authors Guild. His most recent book, If God Invented Baseball, published by City Point Press, was awarded the 2019 Literary Award for Poetry by the Black Caucus of the American Library Association. Ethelbert, as I say, it's always an honor and a pleasure. Thank you for being here, sir.
Thank you very much. Looking at the screen, it reminds me of like the Middle Passage. We're all in there, and we survive, you know. So that's always a good thing. I mean, we'll have to take a look at how we interpret the technology, you know, because this is what it looks like, you know. But it's good to see so many people. Cherry, always good to see you, and Tara, I mean, and Valencia. Okay, there's people I haven't seen in a long time, and I enjoy the work. I'm just gonna read 4 poems. 5 shards of whiteness cutting into blackness. 1, an empty seat next to a Black person on a crowded bus. White people standing, but not too close. Welcome to the fear of sitting. 2, coins dropped from white hands into Black hands. Thank God for gravity. It keeps one from touching. 3, Black bodies waiting patiently in line in front of a counter. Suddenly a white person arrives and goes to the front of the line. No excuses and no excuse. Blackness is a red hot coal. Best to stand back and not get burned. 4, no matter how intelligent the Black words are, the white ears will only talk about the rhythm, the sound of it, the dancing sound. Oh, that drum, that banjo in those plantation days. 5, in a business room, a Black voice speaks and makes several excellent points. Second later, a white voice explains what the Black voice was trying to say. Everyone listens to the echo. I don't know about you, but I went to many meetings like that. Jerry's laughing. You know, because, well, I won't, there's no need. That's why we have poetry. The 10 race cones, as presented to Charles Johnson on the morning of July 13, 2008. Many of you might be familiar that Charles Johnson, who wrote The Middle Passage, is one of our leading Afro-American experts on Buddhism. And this is actually an outgrowth of a email conversation. Race cone number 1. Why is the cotton white and the hands black? Race cone number 2. How come our ears are always open, but we can't hear the sound of freedom? Race cone 3. What's the difference between the color line and the starting line? Race cone 4. I have a dream, and you have a dream. Do we share the same dream? 5. Race cone 5. Is sitting in the dark the best way to describe blackness? Race cone 6. A blind black man boards a bus. What do you notice first, his blindness or blackness? Race cone number 7. Do you ever wonder what Stevie Wonder sees? Race cone 8. When Du Bois called Garvey a Negro with a hat, what was he wearing? Race cone number 9. When a black fist causes a black eye, is this black power? Race cone number 10. Red, white, and blue. Red, black, and green. What do the colors mean? And this is in small town, USA. And you know, I mentioned this. For many, many years, you know, this sounds my ignorance. I didn't realize that, you know, in a hotel, you're supposed to tip and leave some money for the person making up your rooms, you know. And whenever I went out, because I was raised, I always made up my own bed, even if I was in a hotel. So I never left any money. And I always operate like, well, I know the people are making the money. When they got to my room, they could put their feet up and watch the TV because, you know, everything's cleaned up for them. But I realized you're supposed to tip, you know, so I've been doing that like it's the last few years. But no one ever taught me that. In small town USA. In small town USA, it doesn't matter if you can count all the black people on one hand and have a finger for yourself. It's 7 a.m. and you look out the window of your hotel and there's an old black woman coming to work to scrub and clean. And this woman reminds you of your mother, tired, but getting to work early and on time, never late as you close the curtain and climb back into bed, knowing you are not alone. And this woman is nearby, getting things ready for you. And when you leave your room, you make your bed and fold your towels, hoping in this small way to make it easier for this woman you now pass in the hall. And you both wonder who will speak first during this moment when being black is all there is. And this last poem is called Science. When you were in elementary school, no one told you about the black laws of cause and effect. Your science teacher failed to teach you about why a police club struck against a black man's head in the South resulted in a house burning down in the North, or how prejudice could make a store clerk's smile turn into coldness below freezing. You often wondered while waiting in line how you could become invisible to every atom in the world. You tried to understand the reason for your condition. All the blues you knew couldn't defy gravity. All the jazz you heard couldn't keep you from exploding like a star. Thank you.
Ethelbert, I want to thank you as always for sharing your work, and I want to thank you as always for being you. I just want to give a special shout out. I'm happy to consider you a friend and a personal hero, but you've also been very supportive of me in 1455. And, you know, I don't overuse the word because it's always genuine, but it is an honor to have you here as part of this festival. It wouldn't be the same.
I love what you're doing, Sean.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Okay. Next up is Deesha Philyaw. Her collection of short stories about Black women, sex, and the Black church, The Secret Lives of Church Ladies, is forthcoming from West Virginia University Press in September of 2020. Her work has been listed as notable in the Best American Essay series and has appeared in the New York Times, the Washington Post, McSweeney's, The Rumpus, Brevity, Full Grown People, Apogee Journal, Tonight, ESPN's The Undefeated, The Baltimore Review, and elsewhere. Deesha is also the co-author of Co-Parenting 101, Helping Your Kids Thrive in Two Households After Divorce, written in collaboration with her ex-husband. Thank you for being here. Been looking forward to hearing you read.
Thanks, Sean. I appreciate the invitation, and I'm so excited to be in this fine company. I decided to write something just for this occasion, and it's not about church ladies. I have been writing about church ladies for years, so it was nice to have a piece of fiction that was just totally inspired by this reading. So thank you. This is called I Am Not My Ancestors. Jada wasn't exactly sure when sex after a long day of protesting had become a thing for her and Victor, but it was their thing. Without saying a word, they seemed to agree there was no need to let all that residual energy and rage go to waste. That's how deep their bond went. Problem was, like most 20-year-olds they knew, they both lived at home with old school Black parents who didn't play that co-ed sleepover shit when they were in high school and were just as devoted to cock blocking when their kids came home from college. So Jada and Victor parked behind Walmart and Morris Love next to their "We have nothing to lose but our chains" signs. Afterward, Victor drove Jada home. Before she got out of the car, she fluffed her afro back into place and kissed Victor goodnight. She blasted through the front door and sprinted to her bedroom, dodging her parents who sat in the living room watching TV. Jada's mother had a nose like a bloodhound and had complained more than once about Jada coming home after a protest smelling like she was fresh off the streets, whatever that meant. Jada didn't want to have to explain why she smelled like she was fresh off Victor's back seat. In her bedroom, she stepped out of her sneakers, stripped out of her sweaty t-shirt, jeans, panties, and bra, and left them in a pile on the floor. She stood in front of her full-length mirror, took 4 pictures in various poses, all her best approximations of seductive. She texted the nudes to Victor, then threw her on her robe and went to shower. Once clean, Jada towed downstairs to get a glass of water. From the living room, she could hear some pundit on Fox News complaining about race baiters and her father calling the man a goddamn son of a bitch, as if the goddamn son of a bitch could hear him through the TV. Her father was only allowed 1 supervised hour of Fox News per day, doctor's orders. Dear, Jada, her mother pleading. Jada thought about going in and staging another intervention, but thought better of it. She was tired, so she headed up to bed. The wall along the stairwell was covered in family photos her mother had organized chronologically, from sepia images of Jada's maternal great-grandparents in front of a sharecropper shack, all the way up to Jada's high school graduation photos. Her fro had been less impressive then, like her politics, burgeoning. She'd met Victor on the first day of college classes on the quad. By month's end, they were having sex between classes and leading movement actions together. Jada loved Victor, and she knew he loved her back, even though he never said it. His heart belonged to the movement, and Jada was part of the movement. So, yeah. Back in her bedroom, Jada checked her phone. Victor had left her nudes on red. She hated when he did that. She tossed the phone next to her pillow and climbed into bed. She blew 3 kisses to the holy trinity of pictures on her nightstand: Megan Thee Stallion, Asada Shakur, Beyonce. Then she turned off her lamp. Just as she was drifting off to sleep, a woman's voice in the dark said, "What this supposed to mean? I am not my ancestors." Jada opened her mouth to scream, but no sound would come out. "I'm harmless," the woman said. Jada turned on her lamp. A tiny old Black woman sat, or hovered, or floated, or something atop her dresser. Jada kept blinking, but the woman would not disappear. Jada sat up. The woman kept pointing at her chest and talking, but Jada couldn't understand a word over the riot taking place in her brain. Her mouth, still shaped like a scream, still wasn't working. "I say, what this mean?" Finally, the woman's words broke through the pandemonium. She wore a t-shirt, Jada's t-shirt, that read, "I am not my ancestors." "You wear it all the time," the woman continued. This was true. That t-shirt and the ripped black jeans the old woman also wore were Jada's go-to protest gear, and her red and black 11s. "Yo," Jada said, "you're wearing my new Jordans? What the hell?" "Watch your mouth, girl," the old woman hissed, talking common like you ain't got no home training. "I raised your grandmama and she raised your mama, and I know she raised you better than that." I'm sorry, Jada said. Who are you? I just told you, I'm your granny, girl. The old woman stretched and flexed her legs, wiggling the Jordans in Jada's direction. Jada thought back to the photos she'd walked and stomped past a million times. This was the little old woman standing in front of the sharecropper shack. She was probably in some of the other photos too. Jada pulled her comforter up to her chin, unsure what the protocol was here. You scared of me? Granny asked. But out there in them streets today, you had a whole lot of mouths screaming at them police through that thingamajig, what make your voice carry above the people. I forget what they call it. A bullhorn? A bullhorn for the sons of Bull Connor. I like the sound of that. The old woman laughed a flimmy, dead laugh that made Jada's stomach lurch. Bull Connor, Jada said. Wait, wasn't he the governor of that state that wouldn't let Ruby Bridges go to school? We saw that movie in middle school. Bless your heart, Granny said. Ruby Bridges lived in New Orleans. Bull Connor gave us hell down in Alabama, where my daddy's people from. My bad, Jada said. So what do this mean? Granny asked again, tugging at the shirt. I seen some of your little friends wearing it too at the protest today. It means, Jada started, well, no offense, but a lot of things have changed. We're not peaceful like y'all were. We fight back. The movement is different now. The brothers don't wear suits anymore, and we reject respectability politics as nothing more than an offshoot of white supremacists. Hold up, you said you saw me at the protest today? You were there? Yes, sugar, I'm always with you. When you say always, are we talking always, or just always at the protest? Please say just at the protest. Granny laughed that sickening laugh again. Oh, I saw you and that little boy running around in that automobile tonight. Jada covered her face with her hands. Don't be shamed, baby, Granny said. Only thing to be shamed of is wasting your goodies on someone who don't know his way around your body, but that's not what I want to talk about right now. Jada dove beneath the comforter and pulled it over her head. Anyway, she said, muffled, things have changed a lot since back in the day. White people ain't changed in centuries, Granny said. Like my best friend Fannie Lou say, they thieves and murderers and cowards. She say, the white man is the scaredest person on earth. Jada poked her head out from under the covers. The Fannie Lou Hamer? Wasn't but one. You were friends with her? Still am. Fannie Lou and me picked cotton together down in Marlow, on the Marlow plantation in Sunflower County, Mississippi, where I was born in 1917. Your mom ain't never tell you? Truth be told, Jada kind of tuned out when her mother and grandmother started talking about the old days. Well, Granny continued, we worked them fields from can't see to can't see. You was in middle school watching movies about Ruby Bridges? At that age, me and Fannie Lou was picking 200, 300 pounds of cotton a day each. We ain't never known nothing but hard work, from the fields to the streets. They damn near killed Fannie Lou when they beat us in jail, in that jail in Winona in '63, and beat us in the street so many times I can't name them all. But you about fainted at the sight of a little old ghost. Granny roared an icky mocking laugh. So you right, she said, pointing at the t-shirt. You and your little bullhorn ain't me. You and your friends, y'all ain't us. Jada looked chastened. Granny floated over to the bed. Jada inhaled sharply, then remembering the old woman's words, she relaxed. Granny placed her hands on Jada's cheeks. Her touch first felt like a breeze, then a storm, as memories, sepia, grainy, and terrifying, flooded Jada's mind's eye. A thunderclap, and the hands that held Jada's face now ran along bales of cotton piled to the sky. Then the hands wrote names on papers, registering people to vote. The hands pulled a just-born baby closer to chest from between still shaking thighs. The hands snapped in time to the rhythm of a song on the radio. The hands gripped a protest sign, and then the curb on the ground. Somewhere a dog barked and snarled. A nightstick came down and down again. Jada covered her own head and trembled. Granny released Jada's face and clasped her bony fingers. But it's all right, baby, she said. You don't have to be us to be enough for this fight. You're smart. You'll find your way. Jada sat up and shook her head. I'm just sad and mad. All these years later, we're still fighting for the same basic shit. Sorry, the same basic freedoms y'all were fighting for 60 years ago. I thought you said things were different now. Granny smiled. Jada returned a weak smile. I mean, it's not like I didn't know how bad things were back then. One night, I fell down this Wikipedia rabbit hole and Wicca, what? Wicca, Jada grabbed her phone and slid closer to Granny. See, everything in the world is in this phone. Is? Well, not everything in it is true. Jada yawned, but it's like having a whole world at your fingertips. Granny learned quick. She ghost finger Googled Sunflower County and saw the statue of Fannie Lou Hamer. Then she grabbed the phone from Jada and got back up on the dresser and surfed for hours while Jada dozed. Granny was still at it when Jada's alarm went off. Lord Jesus, they got a picture of Malcolm in his britches. Jada stretched. Like I said, not everything on the internet is true. A lot of naked pictures on the internet, Granny said. One popped up this morning, that fella of yours. Jada bolted out of the bed and snatched the phone from Granny. Don't marry him, Granny said. Just get that thought out of your head. You can do better. I love him, Jada said. By the time I was your age, Granny said, I was married with 2 children. I thought I was in love too. You weren't? Yes and no. It doesn't really matter. That's what I'm trying to get into your head. Men will be there. They ain't going nowhere. Go, live. Go where? Anywhere, everywhere. Just don't try and make a world out of a man, especially a man who'll still be a boy when you're a full-grown woman. Ain't no sense in you fighting 2 fights I done already fought. What did I say? I saw the girl say, you ain't got nothing to lose but your chains. That boy is some chains you can step over on the ground and never pick up. Jada nodded to be respectful. Granny laughed her awful, knowing laugh and began to fade. Soon, Jada's t-shirt and jeans fell to the floor atop her beloved Jordans. Her phone buzzed. Victor, probably. Today, they had another action plan to shut down the interstate. Jada would text him back later. She had to figure out what to wear. Thank you.
Deesha, thank you very much. I'm so thrilled that you took this occasion to write a fresh piece. That's awesome.
Thank you.
I loved it, and I love your glasses.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Okay, next up is Monica Prince. Monica was born and raised in Lakewood, Colorado, where she learned how to wear high heels and love writing. She attended Knox College for her BA in English creative writing with a minor in the pedagogy of poetry. While there, she worked for the Association for Black Culture Centers under Dr. Fred Horde and Mrs. Terry Duffy. In addition, she was Trio Achievement Program Scholar, as well as Ronald E. McNair Fellow. Monica studied abroad in Dakar, Senegal for a semester in 2010, where she wrote 85 poems, struggled to speak Wolof, and decided to never join the Peace Corps. Thanks to the support of Trio, McNair, the creative writing department, and her honors committee, Monica wrote, co-directed, and performed in her college honors project in April 2012, Confessions in Living Colored, a Cora poem written about college-age people of color navigating white spaces. She graduated magna cum laude with college honors from Knox College in June 2012. Monica, thanks so much for being here.
Hi, this is so exciting. Hi, everyone. This is fun. Okay, my original plan was to read this poem I don't perform anymore because it makes me burst into tears. But then I reminded myself it makes me burst into tears, so I'm not going to perform it anymore. Because this is the anniversary of Black Lives Matter being started this week. Started on July 13th, 2013. And so it's kind of exciting that we're having this reading today. But I'm not going to read that poem. I'm going to read a different one. So I write choreo poems, choreographed series of poems. My official title is Professor of Activist and Performance Writing at Susquehanna University. And so I teach this class called the Choreo Poem. It's based off of Ntozake Shange's show for colored girls who considered suicide when the rainbow's enough. It is the best show on the planet. Everyone should read it. So my most recent choreo poem was called Roadmap. It's about a Black man who discovers that according to the CDC, his most likely cause of death is homicide. So he's trying to navigate that, and by navigate, I mean thwart it. So I'm gonna read one poem from that, and then I'm gonna read another poem from my most recently published choreo poem, How to Exterminate the Black Woman. All right, so first we have Do Not Pray. And this poem was published with the American Poetry Journal like a week and a half ago. All right. When they find my body between drywall and insulation, or my throat slit like a second smile, or my guts writhing on ashy sidewalk, or my fingers digesting in the stomach of some man, or my spine gunfire curled, or my eyes missing. When it is too late to ask why I was alone or near water or not wearing a bulletproof vest or not studying with my friends or not taking out the garbage or not home watching sitcoms with my sister. Do not ask who killed me. Rather, dig into your own rotting cells. Ask what weapon removes and loses children like me. Exhume the graves of my mothers. Do not lay pennies at my father's feet. Apologize into cameras or bury me with flowers. There is not enough gold to cover silence, not enough water to erode sin. I do not want your hashtags, your legislature, your promises. No movement ever saved melanin splattered on the city's walls. When they find me, lit on a mountain, signaling God to take us back, do not pray! Okay. And in honor of Black excellence, I'm gonna read a Black love poem. This is called My Lover Dreams of Our Daughter, after Natasha Trethewey's My Mother Dreams of Another Country. My daughter will give her father stress dreams, wild and vivid ones that recur for months, long before she's born, while we're still locked in one another, soldered with sweat, awestruck at the shiver of love. There she will be made. No other space could create her. My daughter will come to him like the angels met Joseph, but she won't recite prophecy. Rather, she will sing. Her voice will vibrate his skull, send sparks over his tongue, electrify his bones. It will become a cloud, cracking open like an egg, and it will pour little luxuries into his hands, rings, tampons, vinyl recordings of Prince, and finally, her heart. When he wakes, my hands laced in his hair, all he'll remember is her song. One line sung over and over, halting his breath in his lungs. You will bury every part of me in boxes you will lose. This will not stop us from making love. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you so much, Monica. Thank you so much. I've been going at this since 9 in the morning, and that first poem, I'm ready. I'm awake. I'm ready to keep going. Thank you so much. Okay, so our next poet, I have to start with a confession, a celebration and a confession. I did the one thing that you're supposed to do when you read a poem that rocks your world, and probably the one thing you're not supposed to do. The first thing is I read a poem from Valencia Robin, and it was so amazing. I forwarded it to my wife, and then I forwarded it to a bunch of friends. That's what you're supposed to do. What you're not supposed to do, arguably, is stalk the person and say, I love this poem, but I loved it, and I had to do that. And Valencia was nice enough to, humor me and accept this invitation, but it's personally gratifying to have read something that makes you want to read someone's, entire output. And I'm delighted to have the opportunity to have her read here tonight. So let me introduce Valencia. She's a poet and visual artist. Her first collection of poems, Ridiculous Light, won Percy Books' Lexi Rudnitsky First Book Prize. It was a finalist for the Kate Tufts Discovery Award and was named one of Library Journal's best poetry books of 2019. Her poems have appeared or are forthcoming in the New York Times, the Virginia Quarterly Review, Poetry Daily, the Boston Review, Tri-Quarterly, and elsewhere. A co-director of the UVA Young Writers Workshop, she holds an MFA in creative writing from the University of Virginia and an MFA in art and design from the University of Michigan. Thank you so much for being here. And like I said, thank you for humoring me and blessing us with your talent.
Oh, thank you, Sean. Thank you for the invitation. This is wonderful. So good to see you, Ethelbert. And just really looking forward to meeting all of you one day very soon. I'm going to read two poems. And the first one has an epigraph, which is a song by James Brown. Say it loud, I'm Black and I'm proud. Milwaukee, 1968. I was there the day Black stopped being the worst thing you could call somebody. Right on 16th Street, between Free Branch and Olive. The day before, the exact same word could get you beat up or spanked, but that morning, we turned on the radio, and it was as if the sun had come out of the closet, as if the moon was burning her underwear. And we didn't just stand around and watch either. Me, Michael, Sherry, David, and Teresa, we marched up and down the street, singing ourselves into brand new people, doing our part to free the nation. And when the street lights came on, I marched right up the stairs to our second floor flat, still singing loud and proud, praying my mother had heard we weren't colored anymore, kind of worried, and yet no turning back. Marching around the kitchen table was not going to be moved. Finally peeking over at my mother washing dishes, spying her trying not to laugh, and wonder who I'd be if she'd done the opposite, if by the following week we weren't both wearing afros. Semester abroad. A room in a house just outside of Paris. No idea I'd be sharing the bath with Jose, a little Brazilian who could have passed for one of my cousins, that particular mix of African, Cherokee, and empire. I couldn't understand a word he said. French poured through a Portuguese accent, plus the landlady didn't like him. All I needed to justify my annoyance of the bathroom situation. But weeks in, and the landlady on vacances, the power went out. So Jose lit candles and invited me to share his pasta with creme fraiche. He'd never met his father either, though his mother's boyfriend bought him art supplies, paid for drawing classes. I was surprised he was vegetarian too, that French was his third language, that I was the provincial. Nothing happened between us. Not even after the bottle of Beaujolais, not even though I've been looking for someone to save me from being bored and lonely in Paris of all places. Only our shadows touching across the walls of that tiny kitchen, city lights blinking through the fogged up window, and the realization that I was no longer translating each word he said, that I understood him, but even stranger, us. Our faces, our very names, the spoils of conquest. Our passports and the languages we spoke and why. Our fathers and fathers' fathers, the backstory of millions whittled down to a few pages in high school. The cowboy and Indian movies my mother refused to stop watching, that I rent for her years later when she was dying. Flying across the Atlantic over the bones of God knows how many Africans, and forgetting to even look down, to remember them, if only for a few seconds. Yes, the unimaginable absence and lack, and yet the unknown alive in that kitchen too, its contradictions, its silences and hysterics, the blackness in our voices as we laughed and talked through the night, a keening, but also a kind of space, a clearing we could move through. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Valencia. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, I'm happy to introduce another return guest. She was here last year. In fact, I saw Sarah Reed at Marymount, and then she was at the festival last year, and our paths have crossed. So it's always a pleasure, and I'm very, very happy to always see her face and hear her read. So I'd like to introduce Sarah Trembath. Sarah T. Poetess.online is a poet, academic researcher, creative nonfiction writer, and professional lecturer, professorial lecturer, professional too, in the Writing Studies program at American University. She's written 2 books. This Past Was Waiting for Me, 2018 Poetry and Prose, and It Was the Scarlet That Did It, 2019 Poems. She also administers an educational reform website, sankofalove.org. Her other written work has appeared in Radical Teacher, The Rumpus, Everyday Feminism, As Your Literary Journal, the Santa Fe Writers Project, DCist, as well as Grace and Darkness Anthology of DC metro area women writers. Her topics usually involve coloniality, imperialism, Black history, and current day race-class hierarchies, especially where these intersect with artistic movements, education, socio-political revolution, and gender-based violence. She's an informer, empowerment, self-defense instructor, and is currently instructor emeritus at Defend Yourself in Washington, D.C. Sarah, thank you so much for being here. I'm looking forward to hearing you read.
Thank you, Sean. This is so great. I'm so glad you're doing this. I see Dean Nolan doing a little dance. We are really on lockdown here from COVID, and it's been wonderful to spend literary time with you. I'm so glad you did this year. So I picked 2 poems. This is from my chapbook. It was The Scarlet That Did It. Both poems sort of have to do with those spaces that Black people find in times of real oppression, where we can escape and find beauty and strength. This one's called Jazz Interaction with Symbols. It's abstract because it has to do with ethereal planes, but I hope it's also musical. 4 different purposed birds, 7 divergent churches, all set in circles and steeples. Serpents slither into innocence, notions and oceans of ideas, horizon lines, ships and wishes, irate lies smiling from behind pretty eyes. Town criers never know the joke or the jokester at the crossroads, though griots go along and understand the meaning of the jokester's song. Holy women handle azaleas, holy men buzzard lope, minuet, and swing with age-old coquettes, church folk holding honeysuckle bedbugs, buzzards, and the hum of earthbound angels in their hands. The stories that we tell ourselves in symbols. The shape of an old man's face, a storm from outer space, the cackling curmudgeon with top hat and crutches, black shades, fingertips, a shaky grip on his cane. He is lame. Feigning innocence with his limp and swinging a simple, stealthy, symbol-ridden staff, the pains of girth carved into the world's girth, archetypes, antidotes, and omens. Overseers of Edens investing sudden seeds of themselves in granite and gold and gloves, bringing their underlings and the scent of smoldering skin upon the winds. A dove, the blood has blown over, blessings have begun, selfless spring winds whistle and sing in blessed bone redemption, exemption, absolution, baptism, symbolism of sudden acceptance, quite right rite of passage into pastures having staffs, shepherds, sheep, salvation, sleep, green fields and peace like a river. Cakes made by Mabel, who baked them. Sunshine gleaming from sweetness and bees, our fathers uttered on unending knees. Trees, bees, butterflies, children's cries, cane stalks, hawks, and gentlemen callers, singing songs and symbols, exalting exaltations and praises, naming archetype names and identifying archetypal allies. Brown eyes, valleys, a vessel, vestments, a crisscross, contraptions, candles, a sheath, sheep, a symbol, a symptom, a sword, syringes, a blink, its eye, a lash, black cats, jaguars, that which is jagged, that over which we haggle, sugar smacks, that which needs sweetening, sweetness, a sigh, Alexandrian adages and other languages, all saying to remember, and it's been a long time. The truth behind a lie, revelation, praying, day and daylight, lightning leaves, fear no evil, eve, ease, and the peace that surpasses all understanding. I wrote that poem like one day when I was in the woods at an artist retreat, and I realized that sometimes people dream in the same symbols across cultures and across time. And I thought that was amazing. And that in slavery times, that sometimes got people from the South to the North, coordinating dreams across spaces. And and the second poem is called Elegy for Women Over the Edge, Middle Passage. 1. Solace. Woman, you sank plankward into awaiting Atlantic arms, the absence of air, sweetness compared to a sweltering vessel of death. The sea was vexed but held and caressed you and told you to rest. Forget the splinters in your skin, forget your earthbound kin. Festering and memory only sting for an instant in the elemental oceanic ebbing in that suddenly sane saline abyss. Absorbed amid branches, scattered by branches, collected by branches, entering into branches like arms awaiting ancestry. Entering into the abyss, know that you will be missed. 2. Lament. You left the rest of us behind. You settled into the salt was around us also. You sank so fast as if time, space, matter, madness, and sadness were simply no matter. But nothing replaces your hands. When we reach land, we will not weave your cloth. Our looms are far away as a million moons. We will die too soon to dye your fabric. We will have no funeral cloth for you. When we get out in the cane field of the South, we will devote ourselves to reaching back and grabbing amassed, aggregated ancients, brave, distant, ancestral, dissociated souls who simply made remaining their goal. We will reach out for the old, and like a good hand other than your good hand, the roots grab back and answer. Hands console us and hold us while we would have been weaving your cloth. 3. Praise. You chose to find your children. You chose to go back home. You chose to go beyond this boat, navigate past flasks of rum, soulful hums, muskets, and the tired tusks of desire. You took flight beside the eyes of the other mothers who cried, endure. Praise. 13 million will endure.
Whew. Wow, Sarah, you and your work truly contain multitudes, as they say, and I always feel smarter and more connected to the earth and our shared, our collective human history. I adore the imagery and the depth. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And I want to give a shout out to Ethelbert for helping me with that poem. I don't even know if he remembers. It was like 8 years ago. I read a draft of it and we had a conversation that really helped me revise it.
Ethelbert is the man. Ethelbert is the gift that keeps giving.
Yeah, Ethelbert is. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you. And is the lovely Ms. Reed still with us to take us home? She is.
Yes, I'm sorry. I have to get myself together a bit because I have been glued to every single word that has been spoken tonight. So to everyone, thank you for thank you for encouraging me. I'm going to bookend this panel with the remaining 2 stanzas of Lift Every Voice and Sing. So we started with it and we're going to close with it. Stony the road we trod, bitter the chastening rod, felt in the days when hope unborn had died. Yet with a steady beat have not our weary feet come to the place for which our fathers sighed. We have come over a way that with tears has been watered. We have come treading our path through the blood of the slaughtered. Out from the gloomy past till now we stand at last, where the white gleam of our bright star is cast. God of our weary tears, God of our silent tears, Thou who hast brought us thus far on the way, Thou who hast by thy might lead us into the light, keep us forever in the path we pray, lest our feet stray from the places, our God, where we met thee, lest our hearts, drunk with the wine of the world, we forget thee. Shadow beneath thy hand, may we forever stand, true to our God, true to our native land.
Don, I don't think Terry read.
Well, Terry was in another, but I would love to bring Terry in. Is Terry here? Can we promote her to the group?
Yeah, she's there.
Oh, Terry, Terry.
She was there the whole time.
Have you been here the whole time? Well, I'm glad somebody caught me. And how do I? Well, Terry, I can introduce you, but you can introduce yourself too. And please accept the buck stops here in every regard, but it's only because of scheduling.
Yeah, no, that's okay. Let's see. My name's Terry Cross Davis, Terry Ellen Cross Davis, poet. My first book, Haint, came out in 2016 with Javal Press. Won the Ohioana Poetry Book Award for 2017. And my second collection, A More Perfect Union, won the Ohio State Journal Charles B. Willer Poetry Prize and will be out in February of 2021. I just won the Poetry Society of America's Robert H. Winter Memorial Prize. And I have poems that have been published in Poet Lore, in Poetry Island Review, in Harvard Review, and forthcoming in Kenyon Review, and in Tin House. And had a poem in Tin House. So I'll make it really quick. I'll just read two poems, and one's a very short one. And thanks for having me on. And I should add that I'm the poetry coordinator for the Folger Shakespeare Library in Washington, D.C., and a Cave Canem Fellow, and a member of Black Ladies Brunch Collective, which read earlier. So and both of these poems are from A More Perfect Union. This one is called When I Am the Only One in the Room. The southern roots of y'all makes music in my mouth's map. In the north, I cuff the C hard for couplet, then soften it for child and chain. When booking, I drop the G. Depending on the audience, I find it again running. By 10, I knew when to let the W whistle in whom, but darken the room for the D to fall asleep and don't. I don't know nothing but the beauty of when a double negative will do, how to make this English buck, then soft shoe when I see you. And this is the title poem from A More Perfect Union. And so end with this. And I'm sorry, because Ayana, that was beautiful. And how can you follow up with that? But here you are. So, A More Perfect Union. Dear America, when I say America, I mean white people. You need a new name. I respectfully decline to continue this narrative. Evolution is upon us like a kiss. My tongue twists. I'm getting sick from holding it. Massa, officer, with you fear is always a whip or white lady calling 911. We grew up in the same house. Cotton fields, colonial red bricks, plantation shutters. But in 2016, you shit the bed. Since then, my blues smoke. Spirits singe my throat. Oblivion's a better dance partner. At least with her, I cough but don't choke. Under your patriotic blanket lies a thorny bouquet. You market it well, so I miss the smell of copper, blood steady seeping down my wrist. The founding fathers bought bodies, but every day I'm the one asked for receipts. I breastfed this beast till it gnashed and took off running on its feet. Can I get a store credit for my rage? A trade-in voucher for heartbreak? I'm not a white man with a gun. I can't shoot up a school, church, or movie theater for Burger King, a little right-wing fun. America, are you listening? You need a new name. I cannot keep talking to myself when I am not talking about myself. Maybe America isn't who I need to talk to. Dear reader, we need to knuckle up. From old newspaper headlines to online news, headlines excusing whiteness ain't failed to disappoint me yet. It's time for the remix. Let the masses DJ, not another oligarchy set. Be that more perfect union. And while the ink is still wet, make capitalism beg for forgiveness. Forgive college debt. Establish a general income. Make felons voting legit. Right in healthcare. Not that Western mindset, but holistic. Meditate on that. Dear reader, I need you to know I have hope in us yet. Thanks. Thank you, Sean. Thanks, Ethelbert.
And thank you, Ethelbert.
And I have to say really quickly, Sean Terry, if I was to have ended the event, you came back on as the encore because I wasn't even ready to go yet. So thank you for giving us all a little bit more. We wanted a little bit more.
Thank you.
Indeed. Yeah, my apologies, but also my gratitude to all of you. People that know me, I'm not a man of few words, but I've got only 2 words. Thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for accepting the invitation. And thank you for sharing your beautiful work. I want to remind everyone that's watching, these books by these writers are available. Please support these amazing writers, support your independent bookstores. Go to the event site and you can click on myriad links to find bookshop.org via the Potter's House. And also this was recorded, so I'm really happy and proud that we'll be able to promote this via social media. I'll make it available via the 1455 website and our YouTube page. Again, thank you all for being here. You've elevated the proceedings. This is a very humble endeavor to pull this Lit Fest off. And we've raised the bar tonight, and I have nothing but gratitude for all of you. Thank you so much. And we'll see everybody tomorrow because the show goes on.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night. Good night.
Well, be safe.
Howdy.
Hey.
Thanks for hanging in there.
Yes.
Let
You
me
too. I think we still have a few attendees that are.
Yeah. Let me turn off the recording. Oops.
Oh yeah. Stop that.